appreciate you sharing that perspective on it. Um, so you, like we said, you've been involved with the club game for a while. You've also coached college now, and you've been a scout for some U.S. organizations and teams. So you've seen players of all different skill levels physically. That being said, sometimes the biggest differentiator, especially when you get on into the older age group, the higher playing levels, are their intangibles. So can you talk a little bit more about some things you look for in a player when you're recruiting or scouting? Not necessarily their physical skills, but maybe their mentality and confidence, and kind of some of the things that go along with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, the biggest two things I would say, but the number one thing is the love for the game. So what are they doing before the game? What are they doing during warm-ups? How are they acting throughout the game when they're on or off the field? So and for me, it's the love for the game and the love for the soccer ball is extremely important. As in if I could have a say about putting 18 players, and I can pick from anyone, I would pick 18 players that all like fully love the game and love the soccer ball. Because when you have that and everybody wants to spend as much time as they can of their free time on the field and playing the game and being on the ball, you can do a lot of things. So that's the first and foremost. Two, is the competitive nature. As I said, like in the bigger scheme of things, you want to develop the love for the game for everybody, and it doesn't matter what your skill level is and what your level is. But for me, as a ambitious coach and wanting to coach at the highest level possible and trying to be as successful as possible as well, it's a small portion of the bigger soccer world and of my job, so to speak. But it is still something that I strive for. So when I'm scouting or recruiting, it's also about the competitive nature, right? So if you are 1-0 down and you have 10 minutes left in the game and the ball goes out and it's maybe a throw-in or a corner kick or a goal kick for the other team, are my players, or is the player, or are the players that I'm scouting or recruiting, are they putting their head down, strolling back into position, kind of wasting the time, letting the other team take their time to get the ball? Or is that player that I'm scouting, is he sprinting after the ball, bringing the ball back, giving it to the goalie or giving it to the other opponent to get the ball back in the game? For me, that is something on a competitive level that is one of the most important things that you want to see, because that is something that is internally driven. Because as a coach, you can yell that from the sideline and you can instruct the player to do that, but that's always going to be 5 seconds later than if a player has that desire from themselves internally. So again, for the bigger scheme of the things, it's the love of the game. And the second most important thing is when you are looking for to recruit or scout players for the highest level possible, you want to see the competitive nature, because that same player will show up half an hour early to practice to do some individual skills or to do other things, or maybe some fitness stuff or physical stuff, agility stuff. And also after the game, after practice, they will stay for another half an hour to keep working on their skills, and they will keep asking questions. They will come every single day or every single week to sit in your office to ask to watch over film and to ask about the smallest details that can make a difference, to have them make a bigger impact in the next game. And then when I went through, went through some of the meetings to scout for US Soccer, one of the biggest things that stood out to me is also being brave and taking initiative. So are you just, like, what is the difference between a great player and a good player? A good player is doing what the game plan and what the coaches are asking them to do. But again, like, are players able to take initiative and solve problems that another team is giving them? Or maybe even within their own team, if there are problems and they need to try to solve them, are players willing? Capable is another thing, but are they willing to take initiative and try to solve them? And then are they communicating with their teammates to try to solve that issue? And for me, those are things that if you see that, you'll get highlighted right away, let's say on my sheet, so to speak. So yeah, those three things are key for me.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And those are all coachable assets, and they're not forced. So when a player kind of does those things, you see right off the get-go that they're there because they want to be there and they want to get better, because they're driven, not because someone's driving them. So those are all great points. And, at Exec Sports, obviously, we teach the mental side and how those contribute to success long term. So it seems that you're on board as well, and that's cool to hear.